Welcome back to the deep dive. I have to be honest with you right off the bat. When I first saw the source material for today, I definitely hesitated.
Oh, bro.
Yeah, I looked at the cover. It's Once a Runner by John L. Parker Jr. And there's this guy in short shorts, mid-stride, looking like he is in just a massive amount of pain.
Right, the classic grimace.
Exactly. And my first thought was, okay, I jog occasionally, I do the local turkey trot to get the free t-shirt. But do I really need to spend an hour inside the head of a guy who just runs in circles for fun?
That's a very fair point.
Right. I was thinking, is there actually enough material there for a full deep dive? Or is this just going to be, I don't know, a manual on how to tie your shoelaces correctly?
That is the exact right question to ask. And frankly, it's the barrier to entry for this entire book because most people look at running and they just see it as a hobby.
Right. Or like a punishment.
Exactly, a punishment for eating too much pizza, or just a way to keep your heart from exploding when you hit 50. But John L. Parker Jr., the author, he isn't writing about a hobby here. He is writing about a cult.
A cult. That's a pretty strong word for track and field.
It's really the only word that fits. We aren't stepping onto a treadmill at a commercial gym with this book. We are entering a monastery.
Wow.
And I don't mean that metaphorically. The way these characters live, the way they think, the way they actively punish themselves, it has so much more in common with religious zealots or ascetics than it does with your average college athlete. They are true believers. It's just that their God is the stopwatch.
Okay, well, you've definitely got my attention now. So if this is a monastery we're talking about, set the scene for me. Because the notes you provided mention the Florida Panhandle, which doesn't exactly scream spiritual mountaintop to me.
No, definitely not a mountaintop.
Right, when I think of the Panhandle, I'm thinking of spring breakers and just massive humidity.
Imagine the exact opposite of a cool mountain breeze. It is flat, it is hot, and it is aggressively wet. This source text describes this greenhouse warmth that just hangs in the treetops. It's that heavy, oppressive southern humidity where the air literally feels like a wet wool blanket wrapped around your face. You walk outside and you are instantly damp.
That sounds absolutely gross. And this is where they choose to run?
This is where they live.
Yeah.
And right in the center of this giant steam bath is the temple, the place called Doobie Hall.
Doobie Hall. Okay, that honestly sounds like a joke name. Is it one of those shiny, modern, NCAA-funded athletic complexes? Like glass walls, air conditioning, smoothie bars?
Far from it. It is a relic. Parker describes it as an ancient resonant wooden building. It's basically this massive old wooden house sitting up on stilts. And the book spends a lot of time on the sensory details of this place.
Like a smell.
Oh, especially the smell. It has a very specific permanent funk of old wood, completely unwashed athletic gear, and liniment.
Liniment. Wait, like icy hot?
Exactly like that. That really sharp medicinal smell of methyl salicylate that just clears your sinuses the second you walk in. That is the signature perfume of Doobie Hall.
I can literally smell it right now just talking about it.
And because it's completely made of wood, it is so loud, it amplifies everything. When a 140-pound runner walks down the hall, the whole building just thumps. It booms. It's almost like this living, breathing organism that houses the Southeastern University track team.
It sounds remarkably unglamorous.
That is the whole point. It's described as musty but comfortable. It's basically a fraternity house, but for people who are way too tired to actually party.
Because they're running constantly.
Exactly. These guys are running 100 miles a week or more. They don't want disco lights or loud music. They just want a dark room, a place to ice their legs, and to be around people who understand why they're limping everywhere they go.
So it's a sanctuary for the exhausted. But you mentioned the name Doobie Hall. Who exactly is Doobie?
Okay, so this is the legend of Sidecar Doobie. And this is really where we get our first taste of the sheer absurdity that permeates the whole book. Sidecar Doobie was a local legend, a former mayor of the town. He was this incredibly rowdy, chaotic figure who used to ride his motorcycle around town, just terrorizing cattle.
Wait, terrorizing cattle, why?
With his wife in the sidecar. That's where he got the name. He'd yell stuff like, "We're fixing to do some night riding." The text paints him as this larger-than-life Southern eccentric.
Okay.
And the only reason the university even has this house for the runners is because Sidecar deeded it to them. But there was a catch.
There's always a catch with guys like that.
He deeded it to the school strictly to ensure that his son, Dick Doobie, could get accepted into the university.
Ah, nepotism at its finest.
And Dick Doobie, well, he becomes a major figure later in the story. And let's just say he really didn't inherit any of his father's charm. So the Runner Sanctuary is literally built on a corrupt, good old boy real estate deal.
which feels like absolutely perfect foreshadowing for what's to come.
Very much so.
But living inside this house, inside this crazy humidity and history, is our main protagonist, Quenton Cassidy. What's his deal? Is he just your typical jock?
Not at all. Cassidy is incredibly intense. He's cynical. He is a deep thinker.
Yeah.
But physically, he is built for exactly one thing. The text describes him by saying, Gaunt is beautiful. He has these inverted teardrop thighs, and he looks like a featherless falcon.
A featherless falcon. That is a really vivid image. It sounds almost fragile.
He's entirely stripped down. He's a miler. And in this particular world, being a miler means he is dangerous. He has run a 4.00.3 mile.
Okay, for the non-runners listening right now, and honestly for me too, let's contextualize that number. 4 minutes and 0.3 seconds.
It is an agonizingly fast time. The 4-minute mile is the ultimate barrier. It is the holy grail of track and field. To run under 4 minutes is to be legendary. To run a 4.00.3 means you are exactly 0.3 of a second away from immortality.
0.3 of a second.
Yes, it's the literal difference between being very good and being historically great.
That's a blink. That's a heartbeat. And he missed it by that much.
And that tiny microscopic fraction of time completely dominates his entire existence. He views running not as a sport at all, but as a rite of purification. He is actively burning away all the trivialities of normal life just to find that 0.3 of a second.
So our mission for this deep dive today is to figure out exactly how someone finds that 0.3 of a second. We're going to unpack the philosophy, the training, which they call the trial of miles, and the absolutely bonkers college bureaucracy that actively tries to destroy his career.
It really is a story of an individual trying to achieve something utterly perfect in a world that is incredibly messy and absurd.
Let's start with the sociology of this monastery then, because the source material describes a rigid caste system within the track team. I always just assumed track was, well, track. You run, you jump, you throw things, everyone's on the same team. But apparently, it's not that simple.
Oh, no, not at all. It is highly tribal. Parker breaks down the team into distinct species, basically, and they truly do not understand each other.
Walk me through these tribes. Who is at the bottom or the top?
Well, it's not a vertical hierarchy. It's more horizontal. First, you have the sprinters.
The really fast guys.
The very fast, very short duration guys. The book specifically calls them the manic depressives of the track world.
Manic depressives?
Yeah, they are high-strung, they're nervous, they're twitchy. Their entire competitive existence is compressed into 10 seconds or less. If they have a single bad start off the blocks, their whole day is ruined. The text says they are either giddy with success or completely mired in swamp funk.
They sound exhausting to be around, like fighter pilots running on way too much caffeine.
Exactly. High risk, massive ego. Then, on the complete opposite end of the physiological spectrum, you have the field event men. Specifically, the weight men, the shot putters, and the discus throwers.
The heavy artillery of the team.
These guys are described as throwbacks to ancient times. They are massive human beings. They occupy a lot of space. There's this one character named Michael Mobley, a giant shot putter, who is definitely a fan favorite in the book.
Right.
He treats eating food like it's a competitive sport in itself.
I actually remember a quote from the notes about his eating habits. Something about peanuts.
Yes. He was explaining to the others why he eats so much natural food instead of taking steroids like some of the other power athletes of that era were doing. He says, I don't want my nuts to shrivel up like peanuts.
Oh, wow.
So instead of taking drugs, he just consumes absolutely massive quantities of food. The book says he surrounds his dinner table as if it were a toy.
That's amazing. So you have the neurotic sprinters, the giant, confident throwers who eat everything in sight, and then you have Cassidy's tribe, the distance runners.
The serene messengers.
Serene messengers. That sounds very noble, almost holy.
It's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but it's also highly accurate to how they view themselves. They are solitary, they keep their own counsel, they are basically the long-range reconnaissance troops. Right. They go out into the woods, they run for hours and hours in the baking heat, and they come back looking like walking skeletons. But there is a very quiet arrogance to them. They know they are suffering in a way the other groups aren't. They look at the sprinters doing their little 10-second warm-up drills, and they just think, you people have absolutely no idea what pain actually is.
And leading this tribe of distance runners is a guy named Bruce Denton. He's sort of the mentor, right? Like the Obi-Wan Kenobi of the team.
He is. Bruce Denton is an Olympic gold medalist in the 5,000 meters. But he isn't just a jock. He's also a PhD student in botany.
A botanist and a gold medalist.
Right. So he adds this deep layer of intellectualism to all the suffering. He's older, he's much wiser, and he's the one that everyone on the team looks to for answers.
Which brings us to the core concept of the book, the secret. The notes say that young runners are constantly coming to Denton, basically begging him for the secret. They think because he won a gold medal, he must know some hidden trick.
This is arguably the most important philosophical point in the entire book.
Yeah.
Everyone wants the shortcut. They want to know, what specific shoes do you wear? What vitamins are you taking? What is the magic interval workout? Should I be running 400s or 800s?
And what is Denton's answer to them?
He tells them they're asking the completely wrong questions. Because there is no secret. There is only the trial of miles.
That phrase keeps coming up, the trial of miles. It really sounds like a quest in a fantasy novel.
It is a quest, but it's an incredibly boring one. And that is where the danger lies. The secret is simply the relentless accumulation of workload. It is not about running one single mile as fast as you can to show off to your friends.
Right.
It is about running 10 miles every single day at a pace that hurts just enough to be annoying, but not quite enough to kill you. And then waking up and doing it again the next day. And the next. Regardless of the weather, regardless of your mood, regardless of your final exams.
But wait, just from a physiological standpoint, doesn't the human body need rest? I mean, if I go to the gym and lift heavy weights every single day, I'm going to get injured. How can these guys run every day without just falling apart entirely?
Well, that leads to the concept of breaking down. Parker describes this specific training phase, and this is where the book gets a little terrifying. The goal for these runners isn't to rest and recover immediately after a hard workout. The actual goal is to push the body into a prolonged state of walking death.
Walking death, that sounds so healthy.
It's a deliberate physiological valley. You run so much for so many consecutive weeks that your body completely runs out of glycogen stores. Your hormones just go absolutely haywire.
What does that actually feel like?
The book lists the symptoms, and they are brutal. You become highly irritable. You completely stop caring about your schoolwork. You become, and this is a direct quote from the text, asexual.
Wait, you're too tired for sex? These are college students. That seems biologically impossible for a 20-year-old.
The biological drive to reproduce is completely overridden by the biological drive to just not fall over and pass out. You suddenly need 12 to 14 hours of sleep a day. You feel like a crazed marsupial.
A crazed marsupial. I don't even know what a crazed marsupial feels like, but I'm going to assume it is not a good time.
It's this constant feeling of being trapped in your own exhausted body, just vibrating with fatigue.
So why do it? Why do this to yourself? Is it just pure masochism?
No, it's alchemy.
Yeah.
Denton teaches them that if you can actually survive the walking death phase, if you can keep your weekly mileage up while your body is screaming at you to stop and sleep, when you finally do rest, when you finally taper your training right before the big race.
You bounce back.
You don't just bounce back, you launch. You become, as Cassidy puts it, God's own messenger. You gain this thick callus over your mind and your body where normal everyday pain simply doesn't register anymore. You reach this elevated plane of existence where you can run a 4-minute mile and literally feel like you are floating.
So the extreme suffering is just the price of admission for the glory.
Exactly. But here is the brutal part. You have to pay that price in full before you even know if you're going to get the glory. There are zero guarantees. You could do the trial of miles and still pull a hamstring the day before the race.
That is heavy. Really heavy. But from reading the notes, the book isn't just all gloom and doom and heavy breathing. There is actually a lot of humor happening inside Doobie Hall. It almost feels like a sitcom set in a locker room sometimes.
It really does. And the humor is a necessary defense mechanism. If you spend your whole college life in a state of walking death, you would go insane. So they act out constantly.
Which means we have to talk about Jack Nubbins.
Ah, Nubbins. He is the comic relief of the story, but he's also the heart of the team in a weird way. He's a freshman. He's described as a scrub pine boy from rural Florida. Imagine a kid who is incredibly fast on the track, but completely uncultured in every other aspect of life.
And heavily armed, apparently.
Oh, yeah. He keeps a loaded .45 caliber pistol right in his gym bag in the dorm room.
In a college dorm? Is that even legal?
In the 1970s, Florida Panhandle. Probably not, but nobody's really checking.
Oh.
And his logic for having it is just impeccable. He says you never know when you might see a wild hog or a snake. Or just, need to shoot something.
Ah, yes, the normal college essentials.
No.
Mini fridge, textbooks, massive hand cannon.
And Nubbins gets himself into trouble constantly. He is not exactly an academic scholar. There is this hilarious subplot where he takes a multiple choice exam and he's sitting right next to another jock in the lecture hall. They both fail the test, but they don't just fail it normally. The administration runs the Scantron sheets through the computer,
Oh no, I definitely see where this is going.
and they find a wrong answer correlation, or WAC, of 98%.
Meaning they picked the exact same wrong answers for almost every single question on the test.
Statistically impossible unless you are blatantly looking at your neighbor's paper. So the University Honor Court sends Nubbins a formal letter saying, "We believe this is a Southeastern University record."
Wow. So Cassidy, our super intense monk-like protagonist, decides he's going to step in and help him out.
Help is a very strong word. Cassidy decides to torture him.
Oh boy.
The upperclassmen decide to pull a massive prank on the freshman. They set up a completely fake honor court trial just for him.
This scene sounds so cinematic, I can just picture it.
It is beautifully written. They completely take over a room in the student union late at night. Cassidy puts on a suit, which is probably the only suit he even owns, and he plays the role of the defense attorney. They get that giant shot putter, Michael Mobley, to play the presiding judge. Jerry Misner, who is Cassidy's roommate, plays the court clerk.
And Nubbins actually buys this.
Hook, line, and sinker. He is absolutely terrified. He thinks this is the real deal. He genuinely thinks he's going to be expelled from the university and sent back to the scrub pines to hunt wild hogs forever. So Cassidy stands up in his suit and delivers this completely nonsensical, dramatic legal defense. He is just shouting Latin phrases at the top of his lungs like e pluribus unum.
Out of many, one.
Completely irrelevant to a cheating scandal. He's just saying any big words that sound vaguely lawyery. But Nubbins is sitting there nodding along eagerly, just hoping this brilliant legal strategy saves him. And then the judge, this giant thrower, violently slams his gavel down and sentences Nubbins to immediate expulsion.
That's so cruel, that poor kid.
It is brutal. Nubbins is trembling, probably about to burst into tears, and then Cassidy finally cracks. He lets out this massive peacock scream, this really high-pitched laugh, and the entire courtroom just dissolves into total chaos and laughter.
It's hazing, basically, but it's affectionate hazing.
It's a psychological release valve. You guys are under so much physical and mental pressure from the running, they just have to blow off steam somehow, and it bonds them together. After that fake trial, Nubbins is officially part of the tribe. He survived the prank.
There is another scene you highlighted that really captures this mix of elite athletic ability and just pure childish fun. The plane track scene.
This is honestly one of my favorite moments in the entire book. They are hanging out in the garage behind Doobie Hall. It's late at night. They've had a few beers, maybe smoked, something else.
Right.
And they decide to set up a makeshift high jump pit using a fishing pole for a crossbar.
And they lower the bar to, what, like 4 feet?
Exactly. Now, keep in mind, these are elite collegiate athletes. They could jump 6 feet easily in their sleep. But they lower it down to 4 feet so they can just soar over it with absolute zero effort. They announce themselves over an imaginary loudspeaker as famous foreign athletes, like Rondon Giordante. They make fake crowd noises for each other.
Why do they do this, though? It seems so silly for guys who are literally training for the Olympics to be playing pretend in a garage.
It is all about recapturing the joy of play. Think about their daily lives. Running has become a grueling job. It has become the trial of miles. It's nothing but pain and vomiting and sheer exhaustion. They desperately need to remind themselves that they actually love moving their bodies through space. When they lower that fishing pole and just float over it for those few seconds, it's not work. It's just flying.
That is actually really poignant. It's a quick glimpse of the pure joy underneath all that obsession. But of course, you can't have a hero's journey without a villain. And in The Other Candidate, once a runner, the primary villain isn't even another runner. It is the system itself.
Enter Dick Doobie.
Dick Doobie, the head football coach and the athletic director. The son of Sidecar Doobie. He sounds like an absolute delight to be around.
He is portrayed as the ultimate antagonist, but not because he's evil in some grand mustache-twirling way. He is dangerous because he is highly incompetent and deeply insecure. The football team is losing. They currently have a 4-6 record, and the pressure on him is massive. He's constantly dealing with these angry local Rotarians who want to know why the team stinks so bad.
So what does a failing autocrat do when his team is losing?
He cracks down on discipline, but not football discipline. He doesn't fix the playbook. He becomes completely obsessed with appearances.
Hair.
Hair and dress codes. Remember, this is the Vietnam War era. Long hair is seen as a symbol of rebellion, of the counterculture. So Coach Doobie mandates that there can be no sideburns below the earlobe, no collars on shirts. He genuinely thinks that if he can just control their hair length, he can somehow control the scoreboard.
And backing him up in all this is the university president, Stephen C. Prigman.
Yes, a former judge. a man who perfectly represents the entrenched, good old boy network of the South. The source text mentions a legal ruling he made in the past to intentionally keep the university segregated, using a really thin legal loophole about preventing violence.
Okay, so the sources make it clear he has a pretty controversial political and legal history.
Exactly. The book paints him as someone who represents the old establishment, an administration that values strict order, tradition, and absolute control over everything else.
And we're just reporting what the book says here, of course, not taking a stance on the politics of the era.
Yeah.
But it definitely sets up a massive cultural clash. You have Cassidy, who just wants to run fast and be left alone, colliding head-on with these administrators who demand total conformity. So Cassidy drafts a petition against the dress codes.
And this is where it gets incredibly dangerous for him.
Yeah.
If it were just the weirdo track guys in Doobie Hall signing the petition, nobody in the administration would care. But Cassidy's a very charismatic guy. He decides to walk over to the football dorms.
Oh, no, you don't touch the football team in the South.
He gets 40 football players to sign his petition.
Right.
Over 100 athletes in total.
He touched the third rail.
Exactly. To Doobie and Prigman, this is no longer a cute little petition about hair length. It is a full-blown athlete's revolt. It directly challenges their absolute authority over the athletic department.
Huh.
But they obviously can't fire the entire football team without losing their jobs, so they look for the ringleader. They need a head on a platter to show everyone who is really boss.
We will see exactly how that plays out for him. But first, we really have to talk about the running itself, because for all the campus politics and the dorm room pranks, the absolute core of this book is the racing.
Part 4. The racing. This is where Parker's prose truly takes flight.
There is a very specific conversation Cassidy has with his girlfriend, Andrea. She is trying to understand his lifestyle. She asks him, basically, why are you doing this to yourself? Is it for your health? And he gives this incredible monologue about his demons.
It is a really powerful speech. He flat out explains to her that it is not about health. In fact, elite sports at that level are often highly unhealthy. It's not about looking good at the beach.
Yeah.
It is entirely about satisfying this primal urge to wail out of the final turn like the midnight train to hell.
That imagery is just amazing. Midnight Train to Hell. It's so aggressive and dark.
It has to be dark. He explains that runners live their lives by cold black and white numbers, 4 minutes and 0.3 seconds. There is absolutely no subjectivity in track. You are either fast or you are slow.
Right. There are no style points.
None. The clock does not care if you have a good personality, or if you're a really nice guy, or if you studied hard for your exams. It only cares about the final result. To Cassidy, the clock is the ultimate, undeniable truth in a world that is full of lies and politics.
So let's look at the actual races where he tests himself against that clock. First up, the Wanamaker Mile. This is the big time. The Milrose Games at Madison Square Garden.
Indoor track is a completely different beast from outdoor track. If an outdoor track is a nice, wide-open meadow, an indoor track is a cage match. It's a tiny, 160-yard oval with steep bank turns. It's incredibly tight, it's deafeningly loud, and the air inside the arena is completely smoky from all the spectators smoking cigarettes in the stands. It's literally like running full speed inside a pinball machine.
Cassidy is super nervous before this race. He's physically shaking. And Denton, his mentor, gives him this piece of advice. He tells him to hang in there and hum a little tune.
Which is Denton's brilliant way of saying, relax. Do not waste your precious adrenaline fretting about the crowd or the other runners. Just stay tucked in the pack, let the race unfold naturally, and whatever you do, don't panic. Just hum a tune in your head.
And it actually works. Cassidy wins the race. He manages to kick past the heavy favorite, a guy named Kerry Ellison. But the description of the aftermath, it is definitely not a glorious victory lap. He doesn't look like a conquering hero.
No, not at all. He falls into what they call Wanamaker's syndrome. He is a total zombie. His body is completely depleted of oxygen and energy. He is just sitting down in the locker room staring blankly at the cinder block wall. He can't even form words to speak to the cab driver on the ride back to the hotel.
Wow.
It really highlights the extreme physical cost of that effort. He can't even enjoy the biggest win of his life in that moment because his body is in systemic shock. It's not about glory. It's purely about survival at that point.
Then there is the encounter with Frank Shorter. Now, for those who don't know, Frank Shorter is a real-life legend. He actually won the Olympic marathon for the U.S. in 1972. And in the book, he shows up and races Denton in the 3-mile event.
This is a true clash of titans.
Yeah.
Denton versus Shorter. And Shorter ends up winning the race by a single tenth of a second. But what is truly fascinating is what happens immediately after the race is over. They are cooling down. just jogging slowly on the grass infield together.
Do they talk about the win?
Oh,
Like, hey, man, great kick. You really beat me out there.
no, they don't even mention the race result.
Yeah.
They immediately start geeking out about their training splits. They are asking each other, what were your interval times last week? How much weekly mileage are you doing right now? 140 miles a week? Yeah, me too.
It's literally like listening to two mechanics talking about engine parts.
It perfectly emphasizes that for guys at this elite level, the actual race is just the public display of all the private work. The daily process is what they truly bond over. They are both members of the exact same secret society of suffering. The gold medal is nice to have, but the weekly mileage is the real bond between them.
And then we finally get to the big one, the absolute climax of Cassidy's running career up to this point in the story, the 4.000.1 mile.
This is the ultimate heartbreaker of the book. We really need to talk about the significance of the number, 4.0.0.
The ultimate barrier.
It is the line that separates the mortals from the gods.
Yeah.
If you run a 4.01, you are a very fast, very talented college runner. If you run a 3.59, you are a legend. You are officially a sub-4 miler. It is a completely binary system of success.
So Cassidy travels out to San Diego for this race. He is in the absolute best physical shape of his entire life. He has survived the walking death. He lines up on the track against some of the best runners in the world. The gun goes off.
And he runs the absolute race of his life. Every single lap split is mathematically perfect. He comes wailing off the final turn, digging deep into that reserve of energy he built up during the trial of miles. He crosses the finish line. The clock officially stops. 4.00.1.
One single tenth of a second over.
1/10. That is literally a blink of an eye. If he had just leaned his torso forward 2 inches earlier at the tape, he would be a sub-4 miler. But instead, he is forever a 4.00.1 miler.
That just has to be so devastating to dedicate your entire life to a goal and be that close.
It's actually worse than that, because in this specific race in San Diego against true world-class competition, he finishes in 5th place.
5th place. He ran a 4.00.1 and didn't even medal.
That is the sheer brutality of the elite level. Back in his hometown at Doobie Hall, he is a superhero. But out in San Diego, he is just another fast guy in the middle of the pack. And this really forces Cassidy to confront the absurdity of his own obsession. He's given up everything. His social life, his physical comfort, his academic standing, all just to be considered average among the true greats.
It really reinforces the idea of why we do a deep dive into these obscure topics. It shows that you have to do the work entirely for yourself because the external validation from the world might never actually come. Or if it does come, it might be a tenth of a second too late to matter.
It is an incredibly harsh lesson. You can do absolutely everything right, train perfectly, run a flawless race, and still not be the best guy on the track that day.
So he's at his physical peak. He's currently running 127 miles a week. He is clearly right on the verge of breaking the 4-minute barrier in his next race, and then the hammer drops. The system finally strikes back at him.
Suspension.
It all starts with what the book calls the awesome midnight raid, and suddenly we are right back to the absurdity of Doobie Hall.
The assistant coaches, led by this real sycophant of a guy named Harold Slattery, decide they're going to raid Doobie Hall. They're specifically looking to catch girls in the athletes' rooms. They want to strictly enforce the morality codes to please athletic director Dick Doobie.
So it's the middle of the night, pitch black. They bust into Jack Nubbin's room without even knocking on the door.
And Nubbins, being the paranoid scrub pine boy that he is dead asleep. He hears the door violently crash open. He immediately thinks they're armed burglars. So he reaches right into his bag for the .45 caliber pistol.
Oh no, this is a disaster.
He fires the gun.
He actually shoots a gun at his own track coach.
He shoots the doorknob entirely off the door.
He blows the doorknob off.
Can you just imagine the sheer chaos of that scene? An assistant coach bursts into the room, fully expecting to uncover a college morality scandal, and instead, the heavy metal doorknob just instantly disintegrates right next to his hand in this massive shower of sparks and lead. It is pure, unfiltered chaos. The coaches absolutely flee the building in sheer terror.
I mean, that should logically be the end of the coaches' careers, right? They are illegally raiding student rooms in the middle of the night. That is insane behavior for university staff.
In a just and rational world, yes, they would be fired. But in Dick Doobie's world, this is the exact excuse they have been desperately waiting for. They decide that the athletes' revolt has officially gone way too far. The inmates are now running the asylum and shooting at the guards. They need a scapegoat, and they need one fast.
But wait, they don't go after Nubbins for literally firing a weapon?
No, because Nubbins is just a dumb, naive freshman in their eyes.
Yeah.
Expelling him doesn't send a message. They go after the ringleader of the dress code petition. They go straight after Quenton Cassidy.
The scene where they drag him into the administrative meeting to suspend him is just infuriating to read.
It really is. They actively blame left-leaning professors for supposedly brainwashing Cassidy. They claim he is just being used as a pawn by campus political radicals.
Which is so ridiculous because Cassidy is just a runner. He is not some political radical organizing protests. He just wants to wear his hair a little long and run fast times. He does not care about the revolution. He only cares about his lap splits.
It doesn't matter to the administration. He publicly challenged the absolute authority of the head football coach, and that is an unforgivable sin. So President Prigman and Coach Doobie officially decide to suspend him from all intercollegiate athletics. They completely ban him from the university track team.
So let's just look at the extreme irony of this situation. Cassidy is currently in the absolute best shape of his entire life. He has survived the grueling trial of miles. He is completely ready to go out and run a 3.58 mile, and the system just casts him out.
It is the ultimate tragedy of the collegiate student-athlete experience. He did absolutely everything right on the track. He was perfect. But he refused to blindly conform off the track. And the institutional system crushed his career for it. They took away his university uniform, they took away his athletic scholarship, and they took away his team.
So he is a runner without a team now. He is basically in exile.
But he is still a runner. And that is exactly where the book leaves us hanging, in a way. The title of the book is Once a Runner. The core implication is that the administration can take away the scholarship money and they can take away the fancy uniform, but they cannot take away the run itself. The trial of Miles fundamentally changed his molecular structure. He doesn't actually need their team anymore.
Okay, let's go ahead and wrap this up for today. We have gone all the way from the suffocating humidity of Doobie Hall to the steep banked turns of Madison Square Garden. We've seen the pure absurdity of the fake honor court and the crushing heartbreak of the final suspension. This book is just so much more than a manual saying running is hard, isn't it?
Absolutely it is. What really stands out to me is that this isn't just a niche sports story for track nerds. It is a fundamental story about the purity of human effort versus the absolute messiness of real life. Cassidy constantly tries to live in this pure, isolated world of stopwatch numbers and sweat, where hard effort always equals good results. But the messy real world of university politics, fragile egos, and arbitrary rules just keeps aggressively intruding on his sanctuary.
It really makes you wonder, especially when you think about applying this to your own life. In a world that so heavily values strict conformity like Doobie and his ridiculous hair codes, can true transcendent excellence really survive from within the system? Or does the hero always have to eventually go into exile to truly find out just how great they can be?
That is the ultimate question. Maybe to achieve true greatness, you have to be willing to leave the safety of the team behind. You have to become the lean wolf that Bruce Denton always talks about. You have to be willing to face the clock entirely alone.
A terrifying thought for most of us, but also kind of incredibly inspiring.
The lean wolf leads the pack.
Exactly. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Once a Runner. Whether you are a sub-4 miler yourself or just someone who gets winded walking to the fridge, I really hope you found something valuable in the trial of miles today.
See y'all next time.